Welcome to Join the Conversation, where we look at the renewal and conservation project of the Tower of David Museum. The project, both innovative and ambitious, will completely renew both the heritage site and the museum as we know the Tower of David. We will be taking you behind the scenes of the renewal and conservation project over the next few weeks to show you the many faces of this enormous project. We have conversations lined up with people who will be creating this museum for the 21st century. Archaeologists, architects, artists, designers, historians, and curators. And we're excited for you to join these conversations. I'm Caroline Shapiro, Director of International Public Relations at the Tower of David Museum. And today I'm here with Eilat Lieber, the Director and Chief Curator of the museum, and Amit Re'em, Jerusalem Regional Archaeologist from the Israel Antiquities Authority. In order for better viewing over the next hour, please turn your Zoom settings to speaker view. And we would be grateful if you could keep your microphones on mute, but please do send any questions in chat, as Eilat and Amit are ready to answer. It's lovely to see you all who were at our last meeting, and I'm happy to welcome all our new guests. We know that many of you have experienced lots of snow this past week or two, both in Europe and in the USA. But snow is very rare and very special in Jerusalem. And for 24 hours, we have had snow-capped towers and turrets. Here is a tiny taste of what the Tower of David looked like today. I'm going to show it to you now. It really was quite magical. Last time we met, we looked at the big picture and saw how the Tower of David is strategically placed geographically, giving it an intrinsic importance throughout the ages for close to 3,000 years of Jerusalem's history. Just to familiarize ourselves, here is the Tower of David at the Jaffa Gate. You can see how it bridges the new city and the old city. The Jaffa Gate has been the entrance to the old city for hundreds of years, leading to the four quarters. Here is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and here is the Dome of the Rock. Beneath that, the Western Wall, the Kotel. And here you can see the White Dome, the Horva Synagogue in the Jewish quarter. We talked last week about the expansion of the Tower of David Museum. Future plans include a new entrance pavilion that will include a coffee shop, an amphitheatre, and facilities for all the general public arriving at the Jaffa Gate. The entrance pavilion is a multi-level building that will also include a new contemporary art gallery. In fact, the renewal and conservation program at the Tower of David is spearheading the rejuvenation of the whole of the Jaffa Gate Plaza. A national archaeological park and museum education wing will be built right here and will include an underground passage under the plaza, both to arrive at the Teddy Park and to get to the new entrance pavilion. In addition, we also have plans for the Kishley building, an old Ottoman building that was used as a prison during British Mandate times, and that will become the new Herodian wing, an archaeological site. Well, it's all very well that we have these ambitious plans for the future, but this is Jerusalem. And before you can dig down and put in any new foundations, you have to first find out who put down the foundations before you. And so who better to talk about digging up the past than with Amit Re'em. Amit, welcome. And congratulations on your new title and job at the Israel Antiquities Authority.
Thank you, Caroline. Good evening from snowy Jerusalem.
Amit, maybe you could tell us first, why did you become an archaeologist?
Well, Caroline, I must take you back when I was 6 years old. Now, you know, I was living as a child in Jerusalem, and my home was in the southern outskirts of Jerusalem, near the Valley of Rephaim. Rephaim meaning the Valley of Giants. Now, this was a very pictorial valley, but it was full back then with ancient burial caves from the Second Temple period. Now, I remind you that back then I was 6 years old. Every Saturday, I have a group of my friends and other children, and we used to go out to this wonderful valley, entrance to these mysterious ancient caves, and believe it or not, it's a secret, we started to dig them. And as a children, we find pieces of ceramic and coins and human bones. And we used to take them to the principal of my school. Again, I was 6, 7 years old. And we used to meet the principal and told him, listen, in secret, we think we find the tomb of King David. Now, this principal, I remember him very well. You know, he didn't knew what to do with us. You know, in Israel, it's a crime to do unauthorized archaeological excavation in ancient sites. On the other hand, he saw before his eyes very curious children, but he participated, and everything started then. And I nourished this passion through the years, and here I am, Jerusalem Regional Archaeologist.
Amazing. What a story. Tell us what the Tower of David means to you then as Jerusalem Regional Archaeologist. What's the importance of the Tower of David to you?
Now, actually, for my years of excavating Jerusalem, I'm nearly 30 years here. I have a really, I think, good perspective. And the Tower of David has everything. If you want to learn about ancient Jerusalem, you must come to the Citadel. Every nation, every culture that came and conquered Jerusalem and was here wanted a piece of the strategical point of the Citadel. So as an archaeologist, in the Citadel, you have everything from the first temple period until modern period, everything is there. Actually, this is the story of Jerusalem.
Well, I happen to agree with you because as we see all these different layers of Jerusalem in the stones at the Tower of David, but you, Amit, started your career as a young archaeologist, heading up the excavations of the Kishli building, which we showed you before. The building is on the grounds of the museum, but it was not excavated until the year 1999, when Amit and his team dug down 10 meters to excavate far, far into the past. And let's see what they discovered. I'm just going to bring you to see it. One moment.
It's an ancient film.
And here we have it for you.
Deep within the ancient walls of Jerusalem, a story has waited 3,000 years to be told. In this historic building at the Tower of David Museum lies the story of Jerusalem from the kings of Judea to modern times. For 2 years, Jerusalem's top archaeologists dug by hand through layer upon layer of history to uncover the stones that bear witness to civilizations. This building was a prison built by the Ottomans and used by the British to jail resistance fighters struggling to establish a Jewish state. Here they left their mark on the prison walls with a map of Israel and the Star of David. Excavators descended 10 meters and found evidence of Jewish life in Jerusalem during Crusader times. they found the very foundations of the magnificent palace of King Herod of 2,000 years ago. A rock water tunnel stretching from the palace to the edge of the city served as an escape route for those fleeing the Roman destruction of the city. Archaeologists uncovered the massive city wall built by King Hezekiah during the time of the First Temple. Here is the story of Jerusalem, hidden and waiting to be told.
So we just saw inside the Kishli building, which, as we said, you started excavating in 1999, the Kishli building next to the Citadel. So you've already seen that the Citadel's got all these thousands of years of history in it. But as an archaeologist, when you start a dig, you don't just simply pick up your spade, I presume, Amit, and start digging. What did you hope to find when you started in the Kishli? And what historical sources did you use to try and help you see where you were going?
Okay, let me take you in a small journey into the mind of the archaeologist. Now, back then in 1999, when I was a young archaeologist, my managers in the Israeli Antiquities Authority told me, Amit, there is some kind of a small scale excavation near Jaffa Gate. You go there, you will find nothing. Now you have to know, there isn't nothing in Jerusalem. It's only a matter of how deep you are going and how you are believing that you are going to find this ancient stuff. Now, when you're coming for excavating, first of all, you have to learn the work of your predecessor archaeologists. Now, many work were conducted in this area by great archaeologists, such as Cedric Norman Jones, the British archaeologist, in the beginning of the 20th century. After the 6 Days Wars, Ruth Amiran and Avi Nitan, Hillel Geva, Dan Bat, and Magen Broshi, numerous great names of archaeologists. And they made a lot of archaeological excavation in the Citadel and in the nearby vicinity. But there is a problem. They, in a way, didn't publish final scientific publication, the results of the excavation. I'm doing it very general, yes? They publish only primary results. So when I came as an archaeologist, there was a great darkness or limbo about the datas, the archaeological datas. Now, in this situation, I turned and learned the historical sources regarding the area. And I started with the famous historian from the 1st century, Josephus Flavius. And Josephus Flavius mentioned in this area the great palace of Herod the Great, King Herod. Now we are speaking about the second half of the 1st century BC. Those were the days of King Herod. Now Josephus described the palace, a great beauty, silver and gold furnitures, swimming pools, tunnels, fountains. If I remember well, he even said that the beauty of Herod's palace rose above the temple, on the Temple Mount. So in this area, we are expecting to find Herod's palace. If you are continuing to read Josephus Flavius, he described that after the destruction of Jerusalem by the Roman Empire in 70 AD, the Roman soldiers, the Roman camp, the 10th Legion, occupied this area. Now, there is a big debate among the scholars, where exactly was this camp? Was it in the area of the Citadel, the area of the Kishli, or rather in something in other place? But the common view for now is in the area of the Kishle and the Citadel. This was Josephus Flavius, and I'm already progressing in time, and I'm surveying the historical sources for you. And I'm reaching to the Crusader period. We are speaking about the 12th century, 13th century AD. And if you learn Latin sources and you look at historical maps from the time of the Crusader, you discover that in this area was the Curia Regis, meaning the great palace of the Crusader kings. Another important source, Benjamin of Tudela. Benjamin of Tudela was a Jewish traveler that visited Crusader Jerusalem in 1169, 1171, and he wrote a diary. And he described that when he came to Jerusalem, he saw the Curia Regis, the palace of the kings. But at the foot of the Crusader king's palace, he saw few Jewish that have some kind of factory for painting cloths, fabric. This is the traditional job probably of the small Jewish community that remained in Jerusalem after the Crusader conquering. This was the Crusader period. After that, we learn from pictures from the beginning of the 20th century, even from the 19th century, about the Kishle structure. This is an Ottoman structure, okay? Built by an Egyptian ruler named Ibrahim Pasha. So, Caroline, I'm doing it very, very short. The historical sources was for great help for me in understanding and deciphering the archaeology of this area.
I feel like you must have arrived on your first day with a rucksack, a bag full, like a library full on your back of reading material.
Yes.
In the film, we actually saw the etching on the wall of a Jewish resistance fighter. His name is Shmuel Matzah. And Amit, you met him. There we have a picture of him. You met him in the Kishle. What did he tell you?
And now again, when we started to excavate the Kishle building, of course, we started from the upper layer. We didn't reach immediately to the first temple period. Now the upper layer, this was an abandoned place, okay? But when we opened for the first time the doors of the Kishle, we saw the British prison, all the bars and all the facilities of the prisoners. And we discovered on the walls graffiti inscriptions of the prisoners in Hebrew, Arabic, and even English. Now, one of the inscriptions, you could see it here in the picture, you could see the complete map of the Israel state, including the area of Jordan. And if you look carefully, you could see in the Hebrew inscription, Rak Kach, meaning in English, only das way. Now, this is the symbol of the Jewish resistant movement against the British. Again, we are speaking about the 20th, 1930, and so on, until the establishment of the Israel state in 1948. Looking a little bit to the left, I saw another inscription with an Hebrew name. It was written, Shmuel Matzah. Now, I didn't know back then who was Shmuel Matzah, but I remember well that the Matzah family is a very distinguished family in Israel. There is a well-known minister and judge in Israel by the name Yoshua Matzah, not Shmuel Matzah, Yoshua Matzah. So back then in 1999, as a young person, I called to this distinguished person, Yoshua Matzah, and I asked him, dear sir, are you familiar with someone with the name Shmuel Matzah? Maybe it's a member of your family? And he told me, yes, this is my brother. please call him. And I called him. And he came. You could see him here in the picture, Shmuel Matza. He was already an old guy, but very enthusiastic, very lively. And he was very, very excited. He pointed to the inscription and he told me, I wrote this when I was a young warrior at the Etzel movement, and the British seized me and put me inside the jail. And he also told me about an interesting story. He told me, Amit, you know that my friends wanted to release me using an ancient aqueduct under the structure. They tried to enter to this underground aqueduct, excavate a pier until the floor of the prison, bomb the floor with an explosive, and release all the prisoners. But they didn't succeed because the British seized them. Now, when I explained to Shmuel Matza about all the antiquities that we found, Herod Palace, the Hasmonean fortification, First Temple fortification, and so on, I saw that his eyes were glimmering. And he told me, Amit, you know what? If I knew back then, as a young person, seated in this prison, that I'm sitting above these ancient remains, I will stay here forever as a prisoner in this prison. And this is the story of Shmuel Matza. If I remember well, and correct me, Eilat and Caroline, if I'm wrong, he died 6 years ago.
Not even 6 years ago. Yeah, we've got actually a wonderful little clip of him coming into the Kishle. I'm going to share it with you, just one moment.
ואז שרתם, הם לא ישברו
אותנו, אנו גם לא נחוף הגב. ואז אני אמרתי לעצמי, אני אשים את הסמל הזה מסר לבריטים, שהם לא ישברו אותי, כי הרוח שלי חזקה, ואפילו בכלא, שידעו שאני שייך למחתרת.
Great guy.
He was a very special person.
Yes.
Eilat, you were the person who pushed forward actually the excavations of the Kishle in 1999 with the intention of it being the place that could hold new spaces for children and for activity rooms and for a temporary exhibition. Why is that no longer the case?
Hi, and thank you, Amit, and thank you, Caroline. But you have to understand that for me, as part of the management of the museum, as a young manager, the archaeologists actually were a nightmare. I just wanted the building. And my dream, my vision was to have a children's museum to the story of Jerusalem, to tell them archaeology, history, design, art, all about Jerusalem and make it, come alive. And I thought that this building must be the Children's Museum. It can be perfect for our goals. But actually, we realized that the Kishle holds a treasure. It's like a treasure trove. And it's much more than just a building. It's everything about Jerusalem. And it was so excited to walk there every day and see the remains and find more and more evidence to the story. So we understood that we must actually discover this treasure and of course engage the young generation with the story and find a language, find a way to bring them to this new wing and tell them the story and find another space for the Children's Museum vision. And actually, right now in our big project, we already planning this Children's Museum and Educational Center, but in a different area. And here in the Kishle, we want to tell the story of the site because actually it's the story of our identity, of our legacy. And we want the young generation to be able actually to find and discover their own identity and their own story just here. Why actually we're here in Jerusalem and everything is there. So here you can see the plans for the future together with our architects, Gimel Eshkolot from Neve Tzedek in Tel Aviv. They are also the actually architects of the big project of the upgrade of the museum. Here you can see the terrace and the entrance. This is the introduction gallery to the building. And here we can have a nice introduction about the Herodian Palace, which is the most exciting story of the Kishle excavations. This is the right place actually to also tell you about the designers. I could visit a very exciting site in Rome called Palazzo Valentini. It's right near Times Square. And I could see an amazing archaeological site. It's one of the top 5 of Rome, and I recommend you to visit when you will be able to actually travel again. And I could see that they found an amazing tools, modern tools and technology to engage the visitors with the story. And I knew that this is the right way to tell our story also. I could meet with the designer of the site in Rome, and he came to Jerusalem to advise us. And we are going to use modern technology, projectors, animation, and art in this site to emphasize the importance of the remains and to take people from one story to another one and actually feel like archaeologists to discover the past. Here you can see some of the illustrations made by local projects. They are the designers. Actually, they are American designers from New York. They did the Museum of 9/11, and we took them after we saw in another exciting site in London, just near the, it's in the city of London, near the Bloomberg building, under the building, called the Amit Re'em of London. And we saw this project and we knew that they are the right partners to work with us and tell the story of the Kishle here. So actually, this is the second stage of our current project. We're still planning. This is the conclusion gallery of the site, the exit actually, after visiting the whole levels of the story. And we also planning a nice, of course, shop for the end of the tour.
Sorry, mute. Eilat, you said this is the second stage.
Yes, actually, we started last June with the upgrade of the museum and also with building the entrance pavilion of the museum. So the Kishle and the educational center are going to be our next stage. And here we still looking for partners, and we have to raise the rest of the support for this project. We are actually still planning this stage with the architect and of course the designers from New York. But in the end of the planning stage, we will need to actually find the right support to be able to continue to the implementation stage.
So that brings us back, as you said, to planning stages. The first stage is well underway, isn't it? As we go to see the entrance, the new entrance that's being built. We're talking about archaeology, and I started saying that before we put down our foundations, we have to see who put down foundations before that. So let me take you and show you right now what actually the area looks like. So just one moment.
You are looking at a large-scale excavation that we are conducting right now after the decision to renovate the Tower of David Museum. And this is a rare opportunity, us, the archaeologists, to come and explore, I will say, even a symbol in Jerusalem. Where we are exactly? We are outside the current medieval walls of the Citadel. Few minutes, you can see behind me, Jaffa Gate. In the middle of the 16th century, this area turned by the Turkish, by Suleiman the Magnificent, to a special ramp holding cannons that fire toward the west, meaning this area protected the citadel from the west. Now, the story continues, because in June 1935, a great British archaeologist, his name is Cedric Norman Jones. Jerusalem is in the hands of the British. It's before the Israel state. Now he decided to open half of this ramp, the southern part, and explore and conduct archaeological excavation. And he does it. And he left a diary with photos in the archive of the Israeli Antiquities Authority. Jones laid the foundation for modern explorers of Jerusalem. He was the first to identify the great Hasmonean walls, remains from Herod times, remains from the time of the Byzantine, the tower from the times of the early Arab period in Jerusalem, medieval structures, and so on and so on. Jones, in his excavation on 1935, used classical archaeology. He searched for coins and ceramic, which enabled him to date all these systems of walls and fortifications to the time of the Crusader. But we are doing something else. You know, more than 15 years past, maybe more than half a century. We are using carbon dating. Between the stones of the fortification, there is a cement and chalk and charcoal. We collect it very meticulously and systematically, and we analyze it together with the well-known Weizmann institution in Rehovot. Doing so, we could date the stone, the mortar, and we could scrutinize even more precisely the dates of Jones. So in a way, you have here all the system of how archaeologists in Jerusalem think and operate, and how are using my predecessor materials.
Wow, it's fantastic. Amit, we see your enthusiasm for archaeology here, but Eilat, what were you hoping that might be found? Were you hoping there was something that would be found in the excavations that are taking place right now at the Tower of David to make this new entrance building? What are your thoughts on that?
So again, unless it's going to be the Aron Kodesh or the gold menorah, I hope they won't find anything because we actually need the space. As you know, the Citadel was never meant to be a museum, and it was transformed to be a museum, and the original guard rooms, beautiful guard rooms, are now the galleries of the historical museum. But every museum needs, of course, contemporary exhibitions. And as you know, Jerusalem is great inspiration for artists and designers from all over the world. And together with history and archaeology, we want be able to actually show contemporary exhibitions. So our new pavilion will be the welcome to museum. We are going to have a new ticketing area and information area for the upcoming visitors to the museum, but we also going to have a beautiful new gallery for contemporary exhibitions right near Jaffa Gate Square, right on the main entrance to the old city as part of our historical museum.
And Amit, you're on the other side of the coin. What have you found during these excavations so far?
Well, Caroline, I first might say that I saw the film from the first time. I didn't saw it. And I learned one thing, that I need to put less gel in my hair. Now let's be serious. Our archaeologists are every day and every moment during this current renovation. And we are finding wonderful things. Ancient fortifications, underground passages, mainly from the Crusader period, Arabic inscription from the great ruler El-Malik El-Mu'atem Isa, which describe the erecting of the fortification of the citadel. And we find even a very unique structure. It's called latrine, meaning in simple English, toilet, ancient toilet, probably from the medieval time, from the Crusader time, Ayyubid time, early Mamluk time. And this was a really interesting story because this ancient toilet was already discovered in the excavation of 1980, but it was forgotten. It was locked with the door and nobody knew about it. Now, during this current renovation, we are opening every door. We are reaching every corner of the citadel. And we open this door and amazingly, we discovered this unique structure that nobody remember it. And we started to clear it and to clean it and to excavate it. And we discovered that from the toilet, with underground secret passage that probably the Crusader knights in the time of trouble entered to the toilet and escape from the citadel outside. Again, this is a very unique find. We only have it in Crusader Ekra.
When you're talking, Amit, I'm just going to be able to show a few pictures on the back.
Ah, great, you have pictures, okay.
You can continue talking over it.
Okay, I'm opening the door, okay? And now I'm inside the structure. And if I'm looking up, this is the tunnel, the escaping tunnel. And in a moment, no, I want to see the shaft of the toilet.
One moment. Oh.
Okay, meanwhile, on the ceiling of this structure, we have shafts of the toilet. It's like a tower. You have to understand it's like a tower. All the toilet, even we can say the royal toilet, was in a structure of a tower. From the seats of the toilet, there were shafts going down inside the structure, the hole that you saw now in the film. From the hole, there was a tunnel for all the sewage, and this tunnel used also for escaping, okay? And I think this is one of the complete ancient latrines that we are knowing in Israel.
I'm going to have to bring those photos up a little later. Sorry for that. Eilat, Amit's been talking about some of the excavations that they've had and some of the finds that we've had. We've also found, I know, pipes and coins, bracelets, teeth of a jaw of a pig from 2,000 years ago, potentially. Eilat, what are you going to do in order to bring it to life? And are you going to use any of the excavations and the artifacts that have been found in the new museum?
Absolutely, yes. The finds are part of our new exhibition, and we are very, very excited to be able to show them to the public. For the first time, the Tower of David Museum is going to hold a new collection. Of course, most of it will be archaeology, and most of it will be the remains and finds from the Citadel. As Amit said, the Citadel is the microcosmos of Jerusalem, and it's everything. So we are going to show the original remains together with many other exhibits, models, illustrations, maps, and of course, technology, because this is the 21st century. And as I said, we would like to engage visitors, and especially children and the young generation, with the story. So technology can help us tell the story of the find, of the remain, and make it come alive as we know. So there's a lot to wait for, and we hope to open the museum, the renewed museum, in spring 22. So it's just a year from now. And I really hope that all of you, our friends from all over the world, will be able to visit Jerusalem again. We miss you, and we hope to be ready for you in a very well-preserved, nice citadel and a new exhibition.
So thank you, Amit, for taking us back through your adventures, and for Eilat sharing light a little bit on what we're going to be seeing in the new museum. As we said at the beginning, we want you to be able to ask us questions, ask questions to Eilat and to Amit. So we're going to open the floor for questions. I can see that we've already got 2 questions, and we've had some others in also. So let me just ask, first of all, Eilat, the Tower of David and its name, what does it have to do with David? Why is it called the Tower of David if it actually wasn't King David's tower?
Oh, it's a very good question. As we know from modern archaeology, I think in the last 100 years, that King David used to live in actually southern than the Citadel, what we call today the City of David. Today it's the Silwan village, as you know, not far from the Wailing Wall. So why the Citadel called the Tower of David? Actually, it started during the Second Temple period after the War of the year 70. The historian Josephus Flavius described the Herodian palace, and he said that people used to call the area of the towers that protected the palace, David Citadel, because it's so impressive and strong. And from that point, pilgrims who came to Jerusalem, especially during the Byzantine period, used to call this area Tower of David. You have to know that actually nothing left in Jerusalem after the War of 70. Only the 3 towers of the Herodian Palace. That's why pilgrims used to call this area actually David Citadel or David Tower. And this name actually was connected to the whole area. Jaffa Gate used to call the kind of David Gate or Porta David, and Mount Zion connected to King David. But it's symbolic, I must say, the connection between King David and Tower of David.
Thank you, Eilat. We have another question here. The question is, how will you manage to blend modern museum technology and displays while still maintaining for visitors the feeling of going back in time? So how will you balance the both? For example, Vocado has both modern shopping, but also areas that are largely untouched for 2,000 years. Will that be the case here? So how are you going to balance both of them?
This is also a very good question, and I must say it's a great challenge for the planners of the project, because we know that we must keep the beauty of the past and the beauty of the Citadel towers and rooms. And we are actually trying to do it. And I hope that you won't be able to see the whole infrastructure that we're hiding behind the stones. So it's very important to keep the spaces as they used to be, and just to add technology in a very gentle way and a very modest way, that to light the story, to light the remains, but not to cover anything. So be sure that this is our concern, and we promise to keep the beauty and the authenticity of the building.
We have another question here. It's a practical question. So in the past, when you came to the museum, you could buy an entrance ticket that would cover the whole entrance to the museum during the day, or come to the night spectacular at night. And there was a combined ticket that had the both. With the new museum and the different areas, what will that be? Will it be the same entrance ticket, or it will be different?
Actually, it's not going to be different. Actually, we will continue to find a way actually to combine between experience during the day and during the night. So I don't see why actually this will be different.
Amit, a question for you. How do you decide what's important to destroy and what's important to keep as you're excavating from layer to layer?
Now, this is a very difficult question, and every case stands on itself. But you have to understand, it's not only my decision. When we are facing this kind of situation, many archaeologists and many professors comes and analyze the find. And together, we are deciding what to remove or what not. But you know, as an archaeologist, we are searching to go farther down, go down, down, and down. And if you are not dismantling the upper layer, you cannot go farther down. So it's like a collision. But the principle is to maintain every piece of information representing every period and every culture. This is the main principle, to tell the story.
While I'm with you, Amit, I have just the two photographs that are probably a little bit better of the tunnel and of the latrines slats that were in, and I'm just going to share that with you so that you can just go back and maybe talk about what we're looking at here.
Yeah, right now
this is the roof, isn't it? When you're in that tunnel.
Yeah, this is the ceiling of the room, and you could see that the shaft leading to the toilet seats themselves. Okay, we are facing up, and all the dirt and all the sewage came through those shafts to the ground, and with the tunnel that again used as an escaping tunnel, go farther down into the west, into the area of the Valley of Hinnom.
Thank you.
If I may.
By the way, one more sentence. This is pretty amazing because what we are doing, we are collecting all the material that accumulate on the floor of the toilet. And we analyze it with special expert in order to learn about the diet of the Crusader Knights, their diseases, and who knows, maybe we revive some ancient virus.
Or maybe not.
I hope not. We had enough, actually. But it's a good opportunity to explain that, for example, here we are going to light the whole space and just add some illustrations and text that you will be able to go back in time and see those crusaders in Jerusalem, in the Citadel area, and feel like you are there.
We have another question here. So Amit, you talked about the archaeologist Jones, and I wanted to know, what did it feel like rediscovering his finds?
Wow.
And while you're talking, I'm actually going to be able to pull up a picture of his diary. You told me about a diary, so I went looking for some of the pictures. So while you're speaking and telling us about that, I'll be able to show a picture from his diary that is in the archives of the Israel Antiquities Authority.
Yeah. Look, Caroline, we were very thrilled and excited to revisit it again, the site of Jones. Actually, when we re-excavate his area, we find bottles of drinking, shoes, and even buckets for evacuating dirt from his excavation. And it was really, really interesting. It's a great privilege to continue John's work. And I could feel how, excuse me for the pathos, how the archaeologists of Jerusalem, in a way, are immortal with their work and what they are doing in Jerusalem.
And we can have a look here now. You can see the Citadel. So this is when? This is 1930? In the 1930s?
Yes, 1935, something like this, yes.
And you can see that this is all more or less one layer, and only in the 1980s was it really dug down much further. Am I correct?
Yes, the level of the courtyard was much, much higher than you see today.
Thank you. I think it's amazing that you dig down, but you're also digging down with sources from before. So we are coming to the end of today's session. I want to say thank you so much to Amit, and thank you so much to Eilat for being with us this evening. We have 2 more sessions coming up in the future. The next 2 sessions are actually on a Wednesday evening. So that is Wednesday, March the 3rd and March the 17th. Our next session will look at how we strive to respect history, all the whilst planning to build for the future. And we'll be joined with Eitan Kimmel and Yotam Cohen-Sagi of the International Award winning architects, Kimmel Eshkolot. And we'll also be with Yotam Carmel, who is the conservation manager from Ken Hator Engineering Limited. So there we'll be looking at the challenges that there are in making a modern museum in an ancient citadel. If you would like a recording of this, please do email us at vip@tod.org.il, because we've recorded these sessions, and we truly look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, we have to say, keep warm. We think we've probably had our snow for the time being. And we hope that you'll be able to have a wonderful Purim, and that we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you, Eilat, and thank you, Amit. Eilat, you have the final word.
Actually, I just read a nice question here. Maybe this will be our last sentence. Amit, we were asked if Jones is the real Indiana Jones.
Wow, a tricky question. Now, if you read Jones' publications, books, diary, and articles, let me tell you that you are discovering a very boring and gray guy. So I'm not sure that Indiana Jones, that he was the model for Indiana Jones.
Okay, so it's just the name. So thank you so much, Amit, and thank you so much, Caroline and Rose, for arranging this meeting. And thank you, our partners and friends. As I said, we hope to see you soon in Jerusalem, and maybe in this upcoming summer, and if not, so for our great opening next spring. So be well, and thank you, and see you in our next meeting.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here.